Everyone, I believe we are live. Just checking Instagram. I don't see it yet. Am I live? Can everyone see me and hear me? Just give me an all good if everything's good. I just see it on Facebook and YouTube. Excellent. Where's everyone from? Siddharth from India. Nice. We're in India. Jenny, nice to see you. Joanna. Hello, Halo John. Diamond Mine from the UK. Nice. New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia. Really good to see you all. Bulgaria. Cool. What time is it in Bulgaria? Like 7 p.m.? Theodore, nice to see you. Dina, Gitu, Virginia, Dr. Jody's fallopian tube formula. Well, that is an interesting channel name. I wonder what you talk about. Gain Health. So we have 85 people on from YouTube. Facebook, I'm not seeing any. And are we good on Instagram, Hina?
Yes, we just went live on Instagram.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So 85 people, that's a good enough turnout for me for now. Let's get started with some questions. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and write your whole question out. And Hina, our operations manager, my co-host today, will go ahead and pin your question. I should be looking over there. And I'll go one by one in order. Good morning, Eric. Yeah, so let's get started with questions. I think there was a question from Joanna first. All right, let's get started with Joanna's question. Hello, I've spent money on courses, coaching, retreats, and everything is great, but struggling to move past the learning phase and really shift into my future. Your input is greatly appreciated. First of all, congratulations for investing in yourself. That's like a lot of people are really afraid to do that. There's two different boats, right? Like there's people who are terrified of doing that, and like 99% of people don't. But then there's a small sliver who do, but then they go to the extreme end. They just keep buying like shiny object after shiny object, new course after new course. And what happens is there is a lack of implementation. However, there's always like a discernment in there, because sometimes, like for example, me, when I invest in something, then I find something that could get me there sooner. So I'm like, okay, well, this plan doesn't quite make sense anymore. Therefore, I need to invest in this next thing. So it's always up to you and like what truly makes sense for you intuitively in the moment, because there's no black or white answer for this. Sometimes you need to make a lot of investments. Other times you just need to not make any investments, right? So you just got to know when to do what, and you have to trust your gut, your intuition. However, people mistake intuition with that fear in the background, because they think like, oh, okay, I'm afraid to do this, therefore I shouldn't do this. No, typically intuition is, this is uncomfortable, but I know this is the right thing to do. That's what intuition is. This is highly, highly uncomfortable for me to do, but I know deep down in my heart this is the right thing to do. So my focus is always on execution and implementation, because Like you'll see a lot of people, um, they'll even like a lot of people just copy each other's like someone else's really great idea, but they're just better at implementing it, and that's why they're more successful with it, right? So it's never about the idea, it's about the implementation and execution of the idea. So you can't really trademark an idea. You can actually trademark how the idea is executed. So my number one focus is always on execution of this plan, because a weak plan executed with a definiteness of purpose will always triumph over a strong plan executed with an indefiniteness of purpose. That's the number one thing I focus on. So whatever is like, if you found that you have bought like a lot of courses and programs and trainings, I would make it a thing for you where you like focus on executing that fully. And again, use discernment here, because you're going to find something, you might find something that just makes a lot more sense now, right? Like you're doing this funnel, let's say you're starting up paid advertising and you're doing a low ticket funnel, and then you find that something else in your low ticket funnel will make it work better. There's no point forcing yourself to complete this when you know there's a better answer out there. But don't just like immediately act on that better answer impulsively. Give it some time to sink in. So like for me, when I have a lot of these different ideas, I don't just act on them impulsively, because I know there's a million different ways to execute and like reach the top of the mountain. Which one is the most fulfilling one? Which one do I want to commit to and can commit to and follow through with it? Yeah. I hope this helps. Laura asks, I may have to step out, but I really want to know, how can I get my circadian rhythms back on track? My sleep schedule is all over the place. I'm 56. I have always had more energy at night. A few things you could do is number one, caffeine. Like I think the biggest thing is eliminating caffeine, especially coffee caffeine. I find that coffee, like it just crosses the blood-brain barrier really aggressively. So cutting that down will definitely help. You could consume it from teas, because tea has L-theanine. It's like smaller amounts and it gets dripped out into the bloodstream. A lot of monks and like ancient yogis, and tea has always been around. Coffee, it's kind of, I mean, the Ethiopian farmers discovered the sheep were eating coffee beans and they got hyperactive. But I think through ancient times there was a lot more tea than coffee. To answer your question regarding that, number one priority would be caffeine, cutting down caffeine past, I would say, noon. That's just me personally. I would cut it past noon, because the half-life of caffeine is 12 hours, meaning it takes 12 hours for the amount of coffee or caffeine, sorry, in your bloodstream to actually halve. So halve the amount of caffeine will be at midnight for you. So if you can cut it down and like just stop at noon, that's great. Otherwise, bright lights like LED lights really affect your circadian rhythm. And in the evening, if you can go and watch the sunset, that's great. If you can take a walk at night, I would say like a 20-minute walk. If you can go outside, actually, that would be great. Look at the moon. That will reset your circadian rhythm. And avoid bright lights inside of your house. Bright LED lights. If you can get filament bulbs or light up candles, those will relax you a lot more. But just training yourself to be in bed earlier too. Like even though you don't fall asleep, you just train yourself to get in bed. You can get up from bed if you can't sleep, but starting to train yourself to go to bed earlier, like just going to sleep earlier, and just staying consistent with that. So I think those are the biggest ones. And also not eating a heavy meal before bed. That's a big one too. So cutting caffeine, exposure to light throughout the day. So if you have sunlight outside, try to get exposure to it in the early hours of the morning, a little bit throughout the day, and especially during sunset, like being able to watch the sunset, and at nighttime going for a walk. Light is such a huge part of regulating your circadian system. We don't understand how much the screens that we look at, like if you're looking at a screen, make sure you have flux. It's like a blue light blocker. It makes your screens yellow. Having blue light blocking glasses, we show our clients, like the ones that I use, I think it's called True Dark. It's really, really good. Yeah, going out for a walk, cutting out light, and not eating a heavy meal before bed. Those are some of the biggest ones, I would say. Um, the other thing too, you mentioned you're 56. I don't know, but hormones are a big factor too. I just wanted to bring that up. You might want to get hormones checked. Hormones really affect uh, like your circadian rhythm, menopause, etc. So you definitely want to speak to a doctor about that. Depends how long you've been going through it. So hormonal changes are huge. All right. How did you start your business? I started to make YouTube videos, just sharing my knowledge and my ideas. You can go back to like the oldest video I had. I was just sharing stuff that worked for me, and things that I was interested in, and I just never stopped sharing. I just consistently kept sharing, and then it just like compounded on itself. So the ideas that I was sharing, um, I didn't really want to like get anything from it initially, like apart from maybe views and just building a community, but I was just focusing on building a community of people who are obsessed with reality creation, with how your mind and your internal world creates your external reality. And that becomes infectious. When you're obsessed with something, you attract other people who are also obsessed with this. So a lot of the like all of the clients that we work with, they are obsessed with creating their realities, and that's why like the ones who are the most obsessed with following these principles, they do very very well. They get like really crazy results in the first few weeks. But that's how I got my start in this. I started reading books and exposing myself to different ideas, getting different mentors, and I started to notice commonalities in different areas of life, the true subtle principles, and I started to apply them for myself. And I kind of created this theory of everything when it comes to reality, like the core principles of reality creation. And I just started to share them on this channel, and it just like people were super interested. They wanted to take things further, and I found the right people that I wanted to work with, and then it became an education coaching business. I hope that answers your question. Beth says, "Have you ever considered doing a live in-person event?" Actually, yes. So we do live in-person events for our higher level, like mastermind clients and my one-on-one clients. Um, I've recently opened up the mastermind just this year. We like focus on YouTube and like teaching people to do exactly what I'm doing. It's called Transcendence. It's like on our website if you wanted to check it out. But yeah, I mean, I like doing. I'm somewhat of a reserved like person. Like I think I'm an introverted extrovert, right? So I don't want to do like these big events with like big groups and like jumping around, walk on the fire kind of thing. It's just like if it's effective, I do love sharing energy and like meeting with like a small group of people who I truly resonate with. And that's why, I can do that in like higher level mastermind settings. Yeah, that's what really excites me. So this year, that's why we opened up the mastermind again, and because I feel called to do more one-on-one, like in-person stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. This is actually a really great question. I was out at happy hour yesterday with my financial advisors. Like they were hosting it, and we were talking about AI. Like me, my wife, and our financial advisor. We were talking about AI and AGI. Um, I don't think any kind of technological advancement historically has ever been bad. Um, like we live in some of the best times that you can ever live in. And so if AI and AGI just got so fucking good, like imagine what it could do. We would have unlimited resources. Scientific discovery would be the number one thing that, like, the rate of scientific discovery that we have is just going to accelerate at the speed of light, right? Like if you imagine having like the what is that theory of like computing power? It just compounds. It just keeps compounding the more it grows. So that's what AGI and AI is going to be like. As long as it doesn't deem that human beings are inefficient and we need to eliminate them, then, if we can program it to be like, all right, anti destroy human beings, never destroy human beings ever, then these machines really can be used to generate infinite amounts of resources, infinite amounts of wealth. I mean, if you think about it too, we've never really ever run out of any kind of resources. We've never actually run out of a natural resource yet. So, a lot of people who don't understand this stuff, they don't have like this paradigm of abundance. They have a paradigm of scarcity, like there's scarce resources, blah, blah, blah. It's always running out. There's a limited amount of money. Not everyone can be rich. But I think that's bullshit, because I think there's so much opportunity out there that everyone could be rich. And yes, you could make the argument that, oh, common workers who do manual labor, or like, let's say accountants, lawyers, financial planners, even with AI, they could be so good, they'll customize a financial plan just for you. And so, yes, maybe in the short term, it's gonna be harmful, right? It's gonna confuse a lot of people. Just like when they came out with I don't know if you know the story of ATMs. Like when they first came out with ATMs, bankers and like people were in a panic because you could only get like, someone had a job, like to dispense money, it was someone's job. And then as soon as ATMs came out, they panicked, like, oh no, like all of the jobs are going to go away. But then it just actually created new jobs, right? It didn't really affect things that much. In fact, it started to provide access to money to people who could never really access money like that and like do banking like that. So it actually ended up making things a lot better. So I think I'm actually really excited about AI developing. It's gonna be great. I think it's just gonna make things better. But I think it will only harm people who don't have like the creative skill, right? Like the ability to develop human connections, because human beings are going to develop this craving for more personalization, um, and more of like just connecting one-on-one with another human being. Like we've just become so isolated more and more. And I do think, as Beth asked, like, oh, do you do any live events? I think doing live events and like live stuff where you get to interact with a human being, I think that's going to be huge in the coming years, because there's going to be AI influencers. They say like within 5 years time, it wouldn't be surprising if there was an AI individual in your company who just, like, you don't have any humans anymore, you just have AI. But then there's always the theory that you need someone to manage these AI bots and influences and tools and machines, right? Someone has to manage them still. So where there's development, there's always opportunity. Eric says eventually we're going to reach a point where all of our needs are met, so there will no longer be need for a society based on money. Agree? The only issue with that is if there's so it's like the only epidemic we have right now is mental health, right? Because we have everything, human beings are like, okay, so now what? It's like everything is met. Like no one needs to, like, if we got to a society where no one needed to earn money or like they could just do whatever they wanted. The only issue would be purpose, like finding purpose and meaning. That would be because we've been programmed biologically for survival, right? So we've just been wired for survival. So then when that happens, people invent problems and issues and things mentally to run away from predators, to run away from, because our forefathers were, going to war and fighting and like running away from predators. It's a unique kind of problem, right? So that's yeah, that's what I feel. It's a good question. Quasi, could you please explain identity shifting process for an individual in simple steps and things one must do to help his identity shift? Um, how many of you are aware of what identity shifting is here? Just drop a yes in the chat if you're aware of what identity shifting is, because that's going to change my answer. We have 134 people. If we get like 30 people who know, I won't do like too deep. Yeah, you do know what identity shifting is? Some say no. A lot of people say yes. Okay, cool. I'll just explain it high level anyways, but identity shifting is, so if you look at this game of influencing reality, we have many different ways to influence reality, but the main way that people kind of use is trying to directly influence reality, right? So you try to directly arrange objects in your reality, which, if the internal world hasn't changed, there's no point trying to rearrange the external reality. It will always return back to what's truly causing it. So there is cause and there is effect. Effect is trying to manually arrange everything by force. The cause that actually truly creates change is shifting your internal world. This is known as the mirror principle, where the image that you present to the mirror, if you hold it for long enough, the mirror will eventually reflect it. The reflection is what you get in the external world. The image is what you present with your internal world. So this is where identity shifting comes in. The most powerful way, really the only way to make a shift in your external world, is by you shifting your identity. But shifting your identity doesn't mean you become someone else, because within you, Carl Jung talks about this, there's many different personas, there's different personalities. It's about shifting into who you were meant to be. So that's what we help our clients do. And this is like after 8 years of doing this, yes, there's affirmations, there's thoughts, there's beliefs, there's visualization, etc. Like you can do all of this stuff, but those are all techniques. It's not the core principle. What is the purpose of the affirmation? It's to reinforce and cement your new identity, right? What's the purpose of visualization? It's to reinforce and cement your new identity. So there's the lowest paradigm is the having paradigm, when you just focus on results and having and taking. A level higher than that is the doing paradigm, where you focus on arranging your reality. But the highest paradigm of all is the being paradigm, who you are being, meaning which version of yourself you're embodying. If you stay in that version of yourself for long enough, then the doing naturally follows. If you were the kind of person who makes $1 million and effortlessly does so, then you would naturally take the actions of a millionaire. You'll be a lot more relaxed. You'd be a lot more at ease. Let's say if that is like the $1 million version of you. And as a result of that, you would simply attract it. The having would happen. But for most people, they try to do from a place of lack, right? So that's why a lot of people, they're able to make the money, but they sabotage, it goes away, or they're just like always fighting to get there. And even when they get there, they don't feel good enough. They feel this imposter syndrome, right? Or they lack clarity because they haven't become who they need to be. So they're always trying to look from their current circumstance, from their current perspective or state of being. So the step-by-step identity shifting process that I've developed, that we teach our clients, is there's 4 main pillars. There's awareness. Step 1 is becoming aware and looking at yourself, at this current self. When you look at yourself, you're no longer attached to your current self. It's kind of like you realize you're wearing a mask. So you observe yourself at all times, and your behaviors, everything about you, your persona. There is an eye of observation instead of attachment. So instead of being the character in the play, you go down into the auditorium or the witness standpoint. You are now a watcher. When you stay in the watcher long enough, there's a space between the watcher and the watched. There's a space between the witness and the subject. When that space occurs, now there is a potential to become someone different, aka shift your identity. So the next step we teach our clients is clarity. Pillar number 2 is clarity. Getting clear on what you want, why you want it, and who you must become to achieve it. Getting intellectual clarity, emotional clarity, heart and mind, and identity level clarity, who you must become to achieve it. What, why, and who allows the how and when to fall into place all by itself without you needing to insist. So when we create a focus on what we want, the nature of consciousness is such that whatever we focus on, we move towards. Whatever you pay attention to, that's where energy flows, right? So most people unfortunately pay attention to what they don't want, who they don't want to be. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like this person who I hate. But that's the content of your focus. That's why they move towards that. I don't like this job. I want to get away from this job. It's unfulfilling. Ugh, I can't believe I'm waking up to this soul-sucking, miserable job again. You know, it's 6 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever it is. I really want to start my own business. So they think about, I want to move towards my own business, but for only a sliver of time, not most of the time. They're too attached to their current identity. That's why the clarity process is never complete. So we want to spend 51% or more of our time focusing on what we want to move towards. When we do that, when clarity is fulfilled, the next step is creation. Learning to create this new identity step by step every single day. That's where these methods come in. The affirmations, the visualizations, it's tailored to creating this new self. And as you do this step by step every single day, you're step by step, piecewise crafting this dream life. And, I think I recently, in the last video, I posted a testimonial that we had a client of ours, Caleb. He runs an e-commerce business. He was doing like 3 to 5K a month in profit. And then he started embodying this 7-figure e-commerce version of himself. And like, I can tell you, this guy was like the most committed, most obsessed reality creator I met. He was coming onto every single call and asking these like really great questions. And he literally, like within a few months, he hit his first $60,000 profit month. And now he's well on track to get into 100,000. But that's because he's becoming in the process of becoming that person, right? So that's what happens when you shift your identity. It's a permanent result. You move towards that. You become the kind of person who's worthy of that. And the final step to that, this is where most people fail, is coordination. What coordination essentially is learning to stay as the ideal self, learning to stay in character. What will happen is when you make an intention, when you begin the clarity process and you make the intention to level up, life will throw you tests and challenges. Now, to you, they're going to seem like a test because reality is not going the way that you wanted it to go. The mind can't comprehend why it's happening like this because the mind is limited. The ego is limited. But God or the universe has greater plans for you. It has to kind of ruin this, destroy this identity, so that you become open to receiving the new thing, right? So, you make an intention to make more money, and then all of a sudden you keep getting hit with bills, and you keep getting hit with, all of these unfortunate, unexpected things that keep just arising, all these problems, and you're like, oh, is this even working? That's the moment, right? That's the moment you know it's actually working, because your life is testing your resolve. Your universe, your reality is testing the resolve that you made, the intention that you made. All you need to do is learn how to stay as the current self. And the way to do that, we teach like many different methods, but one of the main ones is surrender, learning to surrender to the flow of reality and not interfering, but also learning how to coordinate your intention, tie all of these events and recontextualize it to viewing it as this was meant to happen. This was actually meant to happen. This is good. This is somehow leading me to my goal. But actually truly believing that, right? Truly having faith, like heart and mind coherence on that. And when you have that for long enough and you see like and that's why, sometimes when things are going to shit, when you just relax, you drop it, you're like, you know what, fuck it, let it just go to shit. I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of fighting. It's kind of like in Harry Potter when, like the first Harry Potter and Philosopher's Stone, where Hermione, Ron, and Harry, they're in that pit of that tree that kind of like the more you resist, the more it grips harder. But then as soon as you let go, Hermione's the first one who did it. It's like, oh, this is what the tree does. She let go and immediately they fell through to the other side. So it's kind of like that. The more you relax, the more you're like, you don't give it too much energy. It's like, you know what? Well, it is what it is. This is just reality rearranging itself. And you just become patient one morning you wake up and everything that you wanted kind of happens. It's like you realize, oh wow, it's happening. And you can only realize the kind of progress that's happened when you look in hindsight. So that's the identity shifting process. I hope these were simple enough steps. If not, I actually made a 56-minute video on YouTube with like a whole guide in there explaining these 4 pillars. That's all you need to do. Master these 4 pillars and you will master identity shifting, which is, our clients pay us thousands of dollars for this, because this is the only thing you need to do. That's it. Stop focusing on millions of different techniques and visualizations and affirmations and scripting, writing, etc. Like, you need to become the person first. That's it. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you wanted to apply to work with us, you can just go to realitycreator.com/apply. That way you can work one-on-one with me and my team. We kind of handhold you through this process to identity shifting and becoming the person that's worthy of success, the version of you that you were kind of meant to be. All right. I hope was that helpful? Okay, cool. I am glad. Thanks for the super chat. Just putting. Do you get this wisdom from Flaming the Czar? What does that mean? What is Flaming the Czar? I don't know who or what that is. Sorry, I wish I could answer that question. Elena, question identity shifting. Taking into consideration a spiritual, non-attached, non-needing, non-identification way of thinking towards reality mastery. How can I be open to identity shifting? The issue with the spiritual, non-attached, like that path, is for most people it comes from a denial of your worldly desires. If you look at the highest sages, they never said deny your husband, deny your wife, leave your family, and come to the mountains to meditate. The truest teachers have always said true spirituality, non-attachment, actually happens in the pursuit of your goals or in the character fulfilling its purpose. So if your purpose here is you have this part of you that wants to achieve success, by all means, you have to go after it. You have to fulfill these worldly desires until you arrive at a point where you're like, I have achieved this, I have achieved that, and I have achieved that. I'm actually not fulfilled. These achievements did not materially change my life, but actually what did was the pursuit or the journey of getting to it. But these aren't steps that you can just skip, because your karma will hate you for it, right? Like, you have come here to experience a very particular thing, and accumulating more and more success will only lead you to the realization that there will never be enough. But you have to arrive at that realization through your experience. You cannot force it. You can't skip steps, because then the mind will always wonder, what if? And then one day you will get to the end of your life and be like, what if I actually pursued that? Right? So it's about combining these two paths, actually becoming unattached, being on the spiritual path, and reminding yourself that part of being on the spiritual path is actually the pursuit of your goals, but from a different frame. It's like, for me, the pursuit of my goals and being on this journey to creating my reality is the spiritual path. This spiritual path, this growth path, is everything. But I know that I can only reach the peak of this path if I fully dedicate my whole life towards like being fully involved in the thing that I'm pursuing. Not half involved, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. It's like, no, I'm actually fully involved with life. I'm not half involved with life. I'm committing my whole life to this, I hope that answers your question. During phases when we see no progress, how can I best utilize my time to stay on track? I'm doubling down on faith, meditation, visualization plus action, taking any step to move forward. Anything else? Yeah, that's actually really good. That's also a very good question. During phases where you see no progress or you see like actually you see reverse progress, you see regress, it's very important to recontextualize those events and put it in line with the meaning of what you want to create. Meaning, if something bad is happening, how can you coordinate it to be in your favor? What's the advantage in this? How could this actually be a blessing in disguise? I always ask that question. How could this potentially be a blessing in disguise? What if this was how it was meant to be? Just perceiving it as that, right? So sometimes, though, when you're in the moment, emotions are really high. You know, you're like, I can't believe this happened again. This is the thing that I was afraid of. Well, how would you respond to it differently this time? To change any kind of pattern, you just have to begin responding to it differently than you did last. Because most people, they respond the same way. There's a stimulus response cycle. At first, you're presented with the stimulus, then you have a cognition of it, then you have a recognition of it, then you have a reaction to it, and then you have the choice to have a response to it. Like, for example, you hear birds chirping, you cognize it as a sound and not a taste. Then you recognize it as a bird chirping and not a dog barking. Then you react to it by reacting to it how you usually do, like, oh, you know, this fucking bird again, like woke me up from my deep slumber at 5, 6 a.m. I'm pissed. But then you don't respond to that, right? So if you wanted to change that pattern, how would you respond to it differently? Consciously choose that response. Because if you, let's say now you choose your response as bird, beautiful, life, I'm up, I'm awake. What a wonderful treat it is to be, you know, to be able to hear a bird. What a wonderful treat it is that there are birds outside. We could be living in a nuclear wasteland where there are no creatures, right? It's again, it's all about context. So and perspective. So it's like, how do you contextualize these events? How do you respond to these events differently than you did last? That's what will determine you ending up at your desired reality or the undesired outcome. It branches out. The quantum event, it branches out in two possible outcomes: desired reality, undesired reality. The issue is there's many different undesired. There's a few desired ones. There's like the one desired one that you know you 100% want. There's the other one that you wouldn't be too disappointed with. Like, for example, if you ask for a Lamborghini, then you end up with a Ferrari. Okay, you wouldn't be too disappointed, but it's still not what you wanted. If you ended up with a Rolls Royce, that's great, right? But if you ended up with $1 million to buy the car, okay, right? You could at least buy the car, but then there's also a lot more undesired branches that you could potentially manifest. Oops. Yoga Bliss Dan says, if we can't afford your program yet, in the meantime, what do you recommend? Do the identity shifting. So there's two other things you could do if joining our reality mastery program is not doable right now, and totally understand. That's why we made these other options. Number one, you could join the academy. That's like $58 a month right now. Yeah, realitycreator.com/RCA. It has a core curriculum in there that is very similar to what we teach our paid clients in reality mastery, but just not as detailed. Like, you want to think about it as, you know, what you learn in your bachelor's versus doing a PhD at reality creation. Reality mastery would be like the PhD, a lot more in depth. Reality Creator Academy core curriculum is like the bachelor's or undergraduate for you Americans. So there's that option. Or the other option is you could always follow the content. I have like tons of identity shifting videos, especially the 56-minute one. I put it out the beginning of this year. It has like a complete guide in there and everything. That is a great place to get started. But I would just keep these 4 pillars in mind: awareness, clarity, creation, coordination. You master these, you will master your reality. That's it. Just Pudding says, "Are we all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively?" I'm rich AF, by the way. Love your stuff. Awesome. Love that. Um, are we all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively? There's a lot of terms in this that I'm not sure how to answer. Like, what do you mean experiencing itself subjectively? However, are we all one consciousness? That I will agree with, because there is historically this understanding that there is a collective consciousness. And this collective consciousness can be proven by, when you have a spouse or something, sometimes before they think something, you receive like a connection to it. So we are all connected. So there happens to be a connection in this quantum field, in consciousness or whatever, to all the objects and everything around you. Experiencing itself subjectively. That's something to think about. How important are vision boards for achieving success? I think they are very important. So we teach our clients to do this form of a vision board called, it's tied to the identity, called the Self-Mastery Guide. But instead of scrolling on social media, I would just look at your vision board. Like, I have it everywhere. I have my vision board and everything that I want everywhere. And I just focus on my goal. It's kind of like you want to think about your vision board, visualizing, focusing on your goal as like creating an imprint. Every time you visualize it, you create an imprint. And if you have like a boat with a frigate or like a sail, right? The more out of touch you are with your goal, the more the sail moves and gets unaligned. And so every time you visualize and focus on your vision board, the target becomes clearer. So it's kind of like reminding yourself. So when you systematically visualize, kind of like brushing your teeth, it's like you're moving towards that intent and that purpose almost every single day. So we teach our clients, like, systematically visualize. Do it to enjoy, not to get something. Do it as part of your process of connecting with your ideal reality and like what you're moving towards. And if you look at every single successful person, they had this deep vision of what they wanted in their lives. I know you guys don't like it when I mean, maybe not all of you, but a lot of you don't like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and like all these elites, right? Bill Gates, evil. But there's still a lesson to be learned. Like, they got to this and they chose to develop evil intents. But one thing they all used was focusing on their vision, the vision that they had, like Steve Jobs' vision. And every single one of them went through hardship. Life and reality always tested them, but they passed these tests. Why? Because their vision was stronger than the pain of their current circumstances. And one thing they all have is a very high pain tolerance. And I'm not saying like you have to go through pain, because it doesn't have to be painful. It's only painful when you're super, super attached, right? That's why life throws you these tests, because you're super, super attached. But if you're not attached, it doesn't have to be as painful. Yeah. Yeah, vision board wallpaper. I use this app called Milanote to have my vision board. Aside from the Self-Mastery Guide. Question, vision board RM guide. What do you recommend to keep in mind if I feel like my vision, plan, and goal keeps needing update and revision? What should I keep in mind considering time frame? So initially, when you start, we don't recommend our clients like change it a lot, because you're going to end up changing it. But if you use an app to have a vision board as well, like let's say a condensed version of your guide, you could begin to experiment with like updating it with your new vision, new ideas that you've gotten. But I typically recommend waiting, because sometimes you have an impulse. You're like, no, you know what? I want to change this goal to this instead. No, I want to change it to that instead. Wait the 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is. And just don't glance over that part that you don't fully resonate with. Look at the other parts. And then create like a systematic time to change it. So you could do it that way, or you could just change it immediately. Some people are more artistic and they want to, like, they just don't even want to look at it if they don't have it perfect and right. So if you wanted to do that, that's completely fine. But if you spend like, 10, 15 minutes a day doing vision work, and that includes you like updating your vision board, your self-mastery guide, or your wallpaper, whatever it is, that's totally fine. Like, I definitely recommend that. Good questions, everyone. Really good questions. How can I ascend to reach my highest potential and walk in my purpose? Um, Give up the idea that you're not walking in your purpose right now. You're assuming that you're not walking in your purpose right now and you haven't ascended to reach your highest potential. Why are you doing this? Because you're seeing stuff, feedback around you that you don't like. But the more you keep staying in that state of being of, see, I'm seeing things that I don't like in my current reality. The reflection is reflecting something that I don't want. Therefore, I am using external sources to validate my internal state of being. You therefore have external validation. You need external validation to feel good within. What if it was independent of what's going on outside? What if you told yourself, no, you know what? This is part of me living my highest purpose. Like this is it. There is beauty and mystery in here. Like, this is the hero's journey. Like, this has to happen for me to get there, right? Like, the thing that I want is happening, but this, don't you see? This has to happen. How am I how is the mind supposed to know what's supposed to happen and what's not? You know how it's like the Rocky cutscene? It's like he goes through all the training, etc., and then he gets to be on stage and like perform and like becomes the hero. That's it. That's like this is the Rocky cutscene moment. If you can truly perceive it as that, then that's exactly what it's going to be. This has to happen for me to get to the things that I want to get to. I have followed most of your shadow and quantum shift works. I can see it working. Any tips for attracting right person as a life partner, especially for someone like me coming from a South Asian country? The real question is, number one, are you being who you know you must be internally? Are you feeling who you must be and stepping into that self every day to be with your ideal life partner? What does that feel like? Every morning you wake up, you step into that version of yourself. You focus on this goal. Step two, are you taking actions to move you one step closer towards that goal? Being on dating apps, meeting other women, etc. Just like putting yourself out there, like surrounding yourself with women or men or life partners, especially. Are you putting yourself in those situations where this reality has a higher probability, statistical probability of coming to life? Right? So, for example, if I wanted to be rich, but I keep hanging out in an environment of people who have no interest in becoming wealthy or running businesses, etc., but yet I do want to become a business owner, it would just be counterintuitive, right? Like, my environment would eventually seep into my internal state of being, and I would be influenced by it. So, are you hanging out in situations where the probability of you finding the right partner is very, very high? going on dates, trying to meet the right person, making an effort. So only take action once you have reached that state of being, is what I would say. Some really great questions today. Can your choice of food influence the ease of identity shifting? Absolutely. If you consistently have brain fog, low energy, uh, you have like you just don't feel good. How can you expect to become a conscious being? You're enslaved by the food that you're eating, the environment that you're in, the toxicity of everything, right? You can't, your mental faculties are not fully utilizable. You can't use them. So I would like one thing we recommend our clients do is get the Viome test. It's a gut microbiome test to figure out what foods inflame you. That was like one of the best things I've done ever. And I found out that uh, sour cream is no good for me. Uh, cruciferous vegetables, no good for me. Um, what else is no good for me? Peppers, tomatoes, coffee, no good for me. No good for my particular gut. So, like you can just simply understand this by experimenting with different kinds of food and like how do you feel afterwards? Are you feeling lethargic or do you feel good? Yeah. This is a really good one. Does living from the end snatch the present from us? If you live from the end, so I guess it depends on what one means by like how you understand living from the end, because I understand it differently. This is actually a really good question. I can see how there could be a misconception of living from the end. So living from the end is, for me, actually it helps you become even more present because what we're doing is we're bringing the ideal self who would, if you watch this Netflix show, it's called like the one with the parallel universes. There's like different versions of this person, and this Jason, I think that's the name of the character. He goes to a parallel universe. I guess he comes from a different universe. He didn't like his, but imagine like a version of you comes to this current reality to help you craft and move forward to that goal. Well, then you're becoming hyper present. You're enjoying this moment now because you have assumed that success isn't if it's going to happen or if it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of choice. You've made the choice and it's going to happen. You enjoy every single moment of your life now because it's coming to you. It will come when the time is right. So there's no other choice but to be present and to go with the flow. If I'm accepting every single moment of life right now because I'm not fighting against it, because I'm living from the end, I've already assumed that it's going to happen. I've made the choice. There's nothing to fret about. I have made the decision to tap into outer intention. Therefore, I will have it. It will happen. Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not even a year from now. I don't care when it happens. It will happen. I've made the choice. There is no if it will happen or if it will not happen. It's done. And you live with that assumption every single day. You remind yourself when you're forgetting, you remind yourself of that assumption. Is this helpful? You guys liking this? Awesome. What's your biggest takeaways? Anyone? Biggest takeaways so far? Eric says identity shifting. I wrote something down that kind of helps you accelerate the identity shift. Let me just find it. All right, I got it. So, what influences your identity? Circle of friends, styles of dressing, typical thoughts and speech patterns, objects that you own, your surroundings. I mean, that's environment, I guess. Your public image, how you present yourself on social media. Yeah, these are the main things that influence your identity. But the main thing is how you perceive yourself. How to stop being a people pleaser and letting people treat you like a doormat. Any kind of behavior. This is a behavior. People pleasing is a behavior. To change any kind of behavior, what needs to happen? It always begins with a decision. However, typically that decision is arrived at from a place of deep pain for most. When they have deep pain, then they're like, you know what? From this moment, no more. This can no longer happen. I refuse to be this way. I will be the opposite way. So, like for people when they quit smoking, right? My grandpa used to be a big smoker. Then he ended up in the hospital. Nothing related to his lungs, but like he had something to do with his liver, and he just never smoked from that day ever again. What happened? I talked to him. I asked him, "No, I'm not that kind of guy anymore. I don't smoke." Oh, okay. You shifted your identity. You've went from a smoker to a non-smoker, right? So he just that's what happens. You make the decision to no longer be that way. Be being the key operative word. So if you view yourself like you have to stack the pains, right? Like what is the like if you get a piece of paper, it's like people pleasing. What are the biggest pains in your life that people pleasing has cost you? Are you willing for this to cost you even more in your life? What do you want instead? If you weren't a people pleaser, who would you be instead? Remind yourself of that decision every single day and like the person that you're becoming. Now you are the kind of person who is no longer a people pleaser. You are this person. And what will typically happen is you'll go to the other pole. You'll go to the other side of people pleasing, which is narcissism. They're all the same scale, but it has to kind of be that way for you to reach a balance. You go from people pleaser to narcissist, and then you arrive at, through maturity and spiritual growth, you arrive at this balance where you step away from the scale. The scale has a slit where you can escape, and that's when you reach like the middle, like the balance point. And then you become both a people pleaser and a narcissist. Those are both personas that are within you, but those personas need to be accepted. They have to be accepted. This too is a part of you. How do I find people interested in reality creation? I find people falling prey to the media, but I haven't been able to get this point across. You could join our Reality Creator Academy or this channel. Like, if you just engage in the channel, the communities, then you can potentially connect with people. What else? I would say honestly, I know it's a paid community, but like our Reality Creator Academy is amazing for finding that kind of community because so many people have connected with each other. You could even just join for a month and like post in there and see if you find anyone in your area. But apart from that, we don't have any other active. Like we used to have a Facebook group, but it's not that active. Yeah, it's a really good question. Hope this helps. All right. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. I hope this was helpful. This will be on the channel, but we do one of these every single month. I believe the last Thursday or third Thursday of the month. Yeah, but we always announce it to our email list. You can, if you wanted to join the list, you can go to realitycreator.com/list. Sorry, Hina, I should have told you before to make the banner. Yeah. That's okay. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/list to join our email list. That's all. There's always a link. Like if you put in your email, name and email in any of the opt-in forms, you'll be in our list anyways, unless you unsubscribe. But yeah, this was a pleasure. Some really great questions. And thank you for being a part of this community. I'm excited. I'm excited for all of you to begin creating your reality. I think 2025 it's going to be a very interesting year. So let's do it. Let's do this. Thanks.